The small town of Ravenswood had always been known for its peacefulness and tranquility, but that all changed when a series of gruesome murders began to occur. The victims were all young women, and they were found brutally murdered in their own homes. The police were at a loss to who could be responsible for such heinous crimes. The murderers continued to happen, and the townspeople were in a state of constant fear and paranoia. One night, a woman named Sarah was home alone when she heard a noise coming from her back door. She cautiously made her way to the door, only to find it slightly ajar. Suddenly, a figure dressed in black and wearing a mask appeared in the doorway. Sarah tried to run, but the intruder was too quick. He chased her through the house, finally cornering her in her bedroom. She begged for her life, but the intruder showed no mercy. He proceeded to brutally murder her, just like all the other victims. The next day, the police received a call from a man claiming to be the Ravenswood killer. He said that he would continue to kill until the police found him and stopped him. The police immediately began a manhunt for the killer, but he always seemed to be one step ahead of them. The murders continued, and the town was in a state of panic. Finally, the police received a tip from an anonymous caller who claimed to know the killer's identity. They followed the lead and, to their shock, discovered that the killer was none other than the town's beloved doctor, who had been secretly committing the murders for years. The doctor was arrested and brought to trial, where he was found guilty of multiple counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison. The town of Ravenswood would never be the same, as the memory of the atrocities committed by the once trusted doctor would haunt its residents forever. The darkness enveloped her as she stumbled through the woods, her heart pounding in her chest. She had been lost for hours, and the only thing she had to guide her was the faint light of the full moon. But as she walked, she started to feel like she was being watched. Suddenly, she heard a rustling in the bushes behind her. She turned around, but saw nothing. She shrugged it off as her imagination and continued on. But the feeling of being watched persisted. As she walked, the trees seemed to close in around her, and the darkness grew thicker. She could feel her pulse quickening, and her breath came in short gasps. And then she heard a voice.
Come closer.
She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The voice was soft and seductive, but there was something sinister about it. She tried to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She was trapped, and the voice seemed to be getting louder.
Come closer. I won't hurt you.
But she knew that wasn't true. She could feel the evil emanating from the voice, and she knew that whatever was speaking to her was not human. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, she was face to face with a creature unlike anything she had ever seen. It was tall and thin, with long, spindly arms and legs. Its skin was deathly pale, and its eyes glowed red in the darkness. It reached out its hand, and she could see that its fingers were elongated, almost skeletal. She screamed, and the creature lunged at her. She turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the creature following her, its breath hot on her neck. She didn't stop running until she reached the edge of the woods, and she collapsed to the ground, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked back at the woods, but the creature was gone. She knew it was still out there, waiting for her to return. She shuddered, knowing that she would never be the same again. She had encountered something truly terrifying, and she would never be able to forget it. In the early hours of September 22nd, 1991, the quiet town of Elmwood, Illinois, was shaken by a brutal murder. The victim was 21-year-old college student Karen Johnson. Her body was found in her apartment by her roommates, brutally beaten and strangled. The police immediately launched an investigation and soon discovered that Karen had been living a double life. She had been involved in a relationship with a married man who was also a suspect in the case. However, he had a solid alibi and was cleared as a suspect. As the weeks went by, the case grew cold, and it seemed that the killer would never be caught. But in 1995, a break in the case came when a man named David Biro was arrested for a string of burglaries in the area. During questioning, he mentioned that he had been at Karen's apartment on the night of the murder. Further investigation revealed that Biro had been stalking Karen for months and had become obsessed with her. He had even broken into her apartment several times before the night of the murder. On the night of September 21st, he had entered her apartment again and confronted her about her relationship with the married man. When she refused to end the relationship, he flew into a rage and brutally murdered her. David Biro was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. At his trial, the prosecution presented evidence of his obsession with Karen and his previous break-ins at her apartment. Biro's defense team argued that he had not intended to kill Karen and that it was a crime of passion. But the jury was not convinced, and he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Karen Johnson's murder shocked the community, and her family and friends were left to grieve the loss of a young woman with so much potential. But thanks to the tireless work of the police and the prosecution, her killer was brought to justice, and her memory was given the respect and closure it deserved. Hello travelers, and welcome back to the Draconian universe. Thank you for listening to these 3 AI-generated stories. I really appreciate your support. We're about to hit the 2,000 subscriber milestone. If you're new here, I would encourage you to subscribe. I upload once or twice a week. I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. And if you could hit that like button, comment below if you think these AI-generated horror stories will get any better with time. I know these were very basic. Still, it's pretty impressive knowing that an AI, artificial intelligence, generated these stories. Anyways, with that, this is Draconian signing off. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.